that was home for me, and I saw nothing wrong with it.
I used to walk to go to church. I used to walk to go to school.
A family community, and it still is for the most part.
And wise men throughout history have done great things for this country.
Hello, I'm Mike Billiot, and this is Interview. With each episode of Interview, I have a conversation with an elected official or some other influential American citizen having an impact on the lives of people in South Louisiana. Today, my guest is long-term Terrebonne Parish Clerk of Court Robert I. Boudreaux. Mr. Boudreaux has served an amazing 11 terms in office and is now in the middle of his 12th term. I'll be talking to him about his amazing career and all the changes that have taken place in South Louisiana since he took office in 1964. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Interview with Mike Billiot. Today, my guest is long-term Terrebonne Parish Clerk of Court Robert Boudreaux. Mr. Boudreaux, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you for the invite, Mike.
Let's talk about your office, first of all. Can you tell the public, what does the Clerk of Court's office do for Terrebonne Parish?
The clerk's office, Mike, is actually involved in just about every phase of a person's life. If you're a citizen of Terrebonne Parish, ultimately you will have something to do with the clerk's office, even if it's just something as probably some people won't realize it, like getting a marriage license. But the clerk of court's office is also the recorder, which means that all of the if you have a suit filed against you, if you have if you file a suit, if you have a witness in a case, if you're ever on jury duty, if you ever have any papers to file in any kind of thing like civil or criminal, or if you have something to do with the juvenile court, all of those papers are filed with the clerk because he's the repository where all these legal papers are. And that's not even to mention something like when you buy and sell a piece of property, or mortgage a piece of property, or lease it, or get a marriage license. Or the clerk's office is also the parish custodian of voting machines, which means that we handle all of the voting, and just about anything that sooner or later you will have something to do with the clerk's office. Even hopefully, if you just want to come and visit the courthouse, you'll be looking for the clerk's office.
Okay. Now, you took office, well, tell the public, when did you take office?
I was elected on Pearl Harbor Day in 1963. At that time, this is when the elections were held, and then your predecessor would finish out the term, and I was sworn in on May 1st of '64.
Now, didn't you work in the clerk of court's office prior to you being elected to the clerk of court?
Yes, sir. I graduated from Terrebonne High School on May 25th of 1950, and I came to work on. I was able to find employment in the clerk's office on June 1st of 1950, and I've been there ever since.
Now, Mr. Boudreaux, I don't want to give away your age, but how old were you?
You can give away my age. I'll be happy to give it to you.
How old were you in 1950?
In 1950, I was 18 years old.
So you graduated from Terrebonne High School at 18 years old in 1950 and went straight to work at the clerk of court's office.
Correct.
But you weren't the clerk of court at that time.
No, sir. I was. My predecessor was Mr. Randolph A. Bazette, who was an excellent teacher and a great model to follow. I worked for him for 14 years to try to emulate and to groom myself to be able to follow in his footsteps. And he was clerk from 1924 to 1964, which was 40 straight years as clerk, and I've been fortunate enough to the people saw fit to let me stay in the clerk's office all this time.
That means that between 1924 and now, that Terrebonne Parish has only had 2 clerk of courts,
That's correct.
you and Mr. Randall.
That's right.
Now, in 1950, you did, when you took the office, when you started working at the clerk of court's office in 1950, have you stayed in the clerk's office since then?
Yes, sir. Except for a leave of absence when my National Guard unit was activated, and I ultimately wound up in the Korean conflict, and I stayed in Seoul, Korea, for about 18 months before I came back, and then we were placed on inactive status, and then I came back to work in the clerk's office.
So you fought in the Korean War.
Well, I'd have to go soft on that word "fought" because we were in communication, and I was in charge of a net control station with the 135th AC&W squadron over there. But we were about 30 miles from the fighting, so I was in the Korean War, but I can't say that I was a fighter.
I see.
I didn't have to. We didn't. Fortunately, didn't have to go through that. But it was all around us.
Now, in 1950, things must have been a lot different in Houma and Terrebonne Parish. There was, I understand, only one high school at that time.
We had one high school, Terrebonne High School, and everybody from all over the parish came to one high school, and it was a marvelous thing because everybody got to know everybody over, you might say, a 10-year period, because as you were going up in the grades, there were some people coming behind you, and you got to know pretty much of about a 10-year period. And it was an excellent situation. We were basically, I suppose, a rural community still, even though there was a lot of urbanization going on, but it was still, you could walk down the street and know most people.
Now, is that where you met your wife, who you are currently married to?
I actually met my wife in high school, and we strangely, we didn't date until after we got out of high school, because she was working in town. She found work as an X-ray technician, and we got to know each other, and one thing led to another, and we were married on January 27th of 1952, right before I left to go to Korea.
When did you come back from the Korean War?
It was in the first part of '53, at which time I was old enough to become a deputy, and that's when I started to do the court work.
And you had to be 21 at that time to be a deputy.
That's correct. The legal age at that time was 21.
And when you when you became a deputy, that meant you could sign your name off on documents being filed in the court, as you do now as the clerk.
Yes, sir. It lent legal efficacy to what you did, because your filing then made it an official document.
And you spent about 14 years working in the clerk's office when you were not the clerk of court. And when was your first election?
The first election, as I say, was the election period at that time was in the latter part of the year, and the primary was in December, and that's when I got elected, December 7th, 1963.